She's an award-winning writer, a hunting guide, archery and rifle instructor, keynote speaker, and all-around outdoors woman who encourages you to get outside, hunt, fish, shoot, and savor all that life has to offer. And now, here's your host, Mia Anstein.
Well, hey, hi, hello. I'm so happy to be visiting with you again. Welcome to the Mac Outdoors podcast. If it's your first time here, then I'm so happy that you're listening. I do hope you'll enjoy the episode. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I do appreciate you listening. Today, I have an amazing episode, and so many people love elk hunting, and me included. And this is just the epic elk hunt of a lifetime, and you just have to listen to really understand what I'm saying. But I received a message on Facebook about a video and about somebody that I need to have on the show, and I'm always a little sus about things like that, and so I kind of investigated in this a little bit, and lo and behold, this is an amazing story that I do think I had to share with you. As we go through things, as always, there are links that will be over on miaanstein.com. I will have show notes there. There are so many amazing things, but I do want you to, as you're listening, just kind of visualize and be empathetic and imagine how you would manage some of these feats and tasks that this amazing guest accomplishes and what a community of people she has around her. I hope you enjoy the episode.
This winter, stay warm from head to toe with WSI Sports' heater gear layers. Use Leah's affiliate code, LLCO10, at WSISports.com and get 10% off your order. All products are proudly made in the USA. WSI Sports is bringing back pride in American-made clothing. That code, once again, LLCO10 for 10% off at WSISports.com.
Well, hello and welcome to the show, Lynette. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm excited.
One of your friends reached out to me and said that I needed to have you on my podcast. And when I first saw the message, I was like, okay, like, what is this and who is this? And then I went and watched a video that was attached to the message. And I won't say that I was blown away, but I was truly inspired because I just think you're probably an amazing person. And so I was like, of course I have to have her on the show because there's so much I need to learn about you and my listeners need to learn as well. So welcome to the show. Do you want to give my listeners just a brief introduction about yourself?
My name is Lynette, and we live in Belton, Texas. I'm married to Terry Jones, and we have 3 amazing children, Katie, Macy, and Kyle. And we have 2 beautiful grandchildren, Zoe Grace and Samson Cooper.
Awesome.
And that's a little bit of basic.
A little bit of basic. And just seeing you on the screen here, you are a beautiful woman. And something that I'm inspired by is that you're also a woman who hunts, but you also have a little story behind the hunt. And can you tell me how long you've been hunting?
You know, before my accident, I did some, as a little girl, I'd go with my dad, but I didn't actually ever shoot anything. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until adulthood that I would go hunting. And the only thing, I went with my brother on an exotic hunt right before this accident and was able to do some hunting there, but it wasn't real hunting where you're basically, it was here's the feeder type hunting. This hunt was a real hunt.
Yeah. And so just so you know, I'll give you a little background about me also. So I actually grew up with a hunting family, so hunting was there all the time. However, I wasn't the hunter. It was either my dad or my brother.
Exactly.
So they were the ones who actually went out and hunted. Sometimes I would tag along and I would spot animals for them and stuff like that. Right. But they were the ones behind the gun. Generally, they were rifle hunting. And so I, too, didn't come to hunting on my own till I was an adult, till I was in my 20s. And that's when I started hunting on my own. But you mentioned your accident. And that's something that so far the listeners don't know about. And it's something that, as I said, when I watched the video, it was very inspiring because you're talking about an exotics hunt, which is basically kind of a high fence hunt. There is a little work to that, but it's not quite the same as the hunt that's in your video, which for the listeners, I will link the video in the show notes so you can go and check it out after you're done with listening to us first, to learn about Lynette first. But will you tell us about the accident that you had and give us some background about that?
Yes. The basic background that I can give is, my parents had both passed away within a month of each other. And my son was born the year before this happened. Very sick, lots of, problems. He was 7.5 weeks early. So there had just been a lot of things right before all of this. I went through a divorce within that next year. And I had been working for a radio station, a local radio station, for about 10 years. I loved my job. I loved where I lived. But when my parents and my divorce, I decided I needed to move. So I moved to Waco, and I took a job with these radio stations in Waco. There were 5 different radio stations. I took my little boy with me, and it was a really big deal to move to Waco. I was not familiar with the way Waco is laid out, so I didn't know where I was going. I'm directionally challenged, let me say that. So long story short, I was headed to a broadcast. I didn't know the directions of where I was going, and I was following someone and they were going fast. So I grabbed the bottom of the steering wheel and I leaned over to the passenger side floor, was reaching for the directions when my Suburban rolled off the highway, and I overcorrected and it rolled 6 times. And even with my seatbelt on, I was thrown from the vehicle, and it was completely crushed. The vehicle was. So I knew right there that, God had a little plan for my life. But so I broke my neck. And so I am paralyzed from the chest down. But with it being an incomplete injury, I have use of my arms. I don't have use of this hand, but I have use of these fingers. So I was so excited that, God gave me a trigger finger. So I pull the trigger. So anyway, I spent 4 weeks in a hospital here in Waco, and I was on a feeding tube and a vent, and I couldn't breathe on my own, and my vocal folds were paralyzed, so they wouldn't allow the breathing. So then they transferred me to a hospital that taught me everything, how to do everything. I had to learn life with my child after that. So that's the basics.
Yeah. And that, to me, it just sounds like an incredible challenge. Change is hard, period, for people, but something like that where you are thrown into a whole new way of life, literally. Something that just struck me, and I'm still kind of have chills, because you had this accident, and even though you had your seatbelt on, you were thrown from the vehicle. And to me, like when you said that, I just got chills, because to me that had to have been some kind of divine intervention. Had you still been buckled in there, you may not have survived. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the footage or research or anything like that, but that's just kind of what came to mind. And I always do believe that God puts us here for a purpose. And so you're on my show, I think, for some purpose. And that's today. I mean, like I said, you are an inspiring individual. Through this challenge that you've had to deal with, what were some of the greatest obstacles that you had to deal with? And then how did you overcome them?
Thank you for asking that. Swallowing was a great obstacle. Learning to swallow again and get off the ventilator was a big obstacle. Since I was in a hospital in Houston and my son was in Killeen, Texas, a big obstacle was just being able to see him and helping him. He was 4 at the time, helping him to understand what had happened and not to be scared. I had one of those halos on that's screwed into your head. And, I couldn't get up. So he was a little bit timid around me at first. That was an obstacle. And then deal with a lot of blood pressure issues. And so with your autonomic system and being paralyzed from the chest down, it affects your blood pressure. So your blood pressure, when you sit up, goes down. And so they couldn't get my blood pressure regulated. So that was a big one, because you just sit up and then you just pass out. So through medication and an abdominal binder that holds the blood up, I got over that one. And my son was getting on board with everything I was going through. He was pushing me down the halls, and we were starting to have a really good time. And so I had to learn the basics of going. They take us down to the kitchen, and that's when you realized, oh my gosh, I can't even cook. I have one hand. And so they'd put a cuff on your hand and a knife in it, and they just let you spread peanut butter on a piece of bread. It was a very humbling experience, just to realize the things that I needed to learn to do before I could go home and be a single mother. So I spent 4 months working on things, and then the obstacle was to get home, and eventually got off the feeding tube after learning how to swallow. So there were several obstacles just to get home.
Yeah, that sounds like huge obstacles. Did you have friends or family that were helping you through this?
Oh, gosh. Yes, very much so.
Thank goodness.
Even though I was in Houston, they had an apartment there for my family to be able to come. So I had an aunt and uncle, and several aunts and uncles that came in, and cousins, and my brother and his wife, Yvette. They were just, they'd come up. They're from Harlingen in the Valley. And they'd come up on the weekends, and she was a really big help to me doing my laundry and things like that. And then I had friends that would just hit the roads and come up there, and that helped boost me. I had another friend that I'd gone to college with. She and her family lived in Houston. So they would come to visit a lot, paint my nails, and, made me feel pampered and made me feel good. So I had lots of support, lots of support.
That is so nice that you had that. And so you had friends and family for support and strength. Was there anything else that kind of gave you some type of stress relief or revived you through the process?
Yes, I will tell you. I got a lot of videos and things from Joyce Meyer Ministries. And, when I was laying on, it's called a striker bed. And it's a bed that goes back and forth. It's electric bed so that you don't get pressure sores. When I was on that bed and I was on the vent and on the feeding tube, and I would look up, and they had put scriptures above the bed that, inspired me so much when I couldn't talk to anybody else. I couldn't talk. So I talked to God. And that's when I really realized that he was the one thing that I could rely on. And I just put all my trust and all my faith in him. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I would be okay. And then it just stayed with me. He just stayed with me through everything. There'd be a video of hers that I'd hear, words that I would hear, about scriptures that people would read to me. It was a constant in my life of the people that I had, of believers that were praying. And I'd get, at that time, we didn't have what now is called Caring Bridge, but my cousin Mitch had started an email group where people could email their thoughts and prayers and things like that. So he'd bring them to me or read them to me over the phone. And it was just the overwhelming presence of people that were praying, and the messages of hope that they would send. You just don't realize until something happens to you like that, the people that care and that are praying for you.
Yeah. And so the Caring Bridge, that's something that's still going, that he created that and it's still going on?
No, Caring Bridge is something that was created much later that you can go on to now when family or friends are in the hospital and you want to send them messages of hope. You can go on to a Caring Bridge link. Well, in 1999, that wasn't created yet. So he just made it was a website per se that he made where people could, but no, it's not still going on.
Okay.
People just, luckily, I'm able to communicate with all of them now. So
Yeah.
I still have a great group of supporters out there, and we do a lot of things together.
Very cool. And so basically, this has been a couple decades ago that you had the accident.
23 years ago. My son is now 27.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing that you found the strength to come as far as you have. And I don't know what you're doing for your career now, but can you tell us a little about what's going on in your life now, 2 decades later?
I met my husband in 2000 and latter part of 2011, and we married in 2013. And as I say in the video that you could watch, he had a ministry called Christian Courage. And I was a speaker at the time. I would go to Bible studies and ladies groups, any type of group actually, and just tell my story about how God literally saved me from the wreckage. And he took my mess and he turned it into a message. And meeting him, and he had his ministry, I started speaking and singing for his ministry. My vocal folds were paralyzed in the accident, and I studied music in college, so I wasn't able to sing or speak above a whisper. And about 6 months later, I went back to the ENT, and he said, "Your vocal folds, they're restored. You're back." And so then I just started singing for the Lord, and through that just got stronger and stronger with a paralyzed diaphragm. So that led me to singing with him and speaking with him. And then we got married in 2013 and just began this journey of, I really want to call it a journey of hope for others, because with him, he showed me, we ride horses. We found a saddle. A friend of mine found a saddle for me that was made for a quadriplegic that was my exact size. It wraps around my torso, Velcro's tight so that I'm able to sit up on a horse. I just can't even explain the adventures that we've been on. Moving by the boat with my son, and, just things I never thought as a mom I'd be able to do, and things as a wife that we've, been able to do together to hopefully inspire people just to, get out and do things. Don't be afraid. You've got to try it. You've just got to try things.
Yeah. And you have found a way to get out there and do these things. And some of this stuff I think is just coming to you, actually. I mean, to find that saddle and to find one that it's built to your size, that's pretty amazing because they're not everywhere. Through this, I know that you have a message of hope for others. Do you have a ministry online, or can people invite you to speak at events, or what kind of stuff?
Sorry I interrupted you. I just get really excited. We love to speak. He speaks with me about his journey. He lost his wife of 30 years to breast cancer. So we speak about our journey apart, our journey with the Lord, and then how he brought us together. For him to jump in and marrying a quadriplegic is another journey in itself, and something that, he learned through his wife. Caring for her brought him to where he knew a lot of the things that I struggle with. So yes, my email is Lynette@christiancourage.org. We are also on Facebook at Christian Courage, and we would love to take anybody anywhere. We will travel. It's all to let people know the courage of faith, to let people know the courage of hope, and that you can do anything through Christ who strengthens you, Philippians 4:13. So yes, we would love to speak for others.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to get back to the video. Yes. And the video, just for the listeners, it's a hunting video. And with the steps that you took from not being able to swallow, not being able to speak, not being able to sit upright, or, dealing with blood pressure and all of that, to go from that to actually using a high caliber rifle to go hunting. Will you tell us about that journey? How did the hunting part come to be? How did that happen?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Okay. My answers are so long, and
It's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
We have all day.
Well, right after the accident, I thought about, would I ever be able to do that? And just really questioned, I didn't have the strength in my hands. I did a lot of physical therapy to get the hand strength in my right hand. Then I had a surgery, which is called tendon transfer. And with a tendon transfer, they take tendons from your arm, tendons from other fingers, tendons from your hand, and they put it into the fingers that they think that could use better. And through that tendon transfer, it made the fingers stronger. So I was able to, do more with my fingers. I still would use strap-on things like a strap-on blow dryer or a brush or things like that. But the grip just continued to get stronger. I still use those, but was just blown away that I did not think I would have the strength in my finger to pull a trigger. So it started out that I reached out to a gentleman that worked on my cushions named Keith. And he said, I want to give you the name of a guy that I think that could hook you up with hunting. I said, okay. So he hooked me up with Able Outdoors, and that is Chad. Well, Chad told me to go to this. It was a banquet for another group. Chad is Able Outdoors. This is another group called Disabled Outdoors. And we went to a banquet where we met another gentleman named Weston, and he's in charge of that organization. And we met some gentlemen that own ranches, and they donate hunts and things like that. And we were hooked up with a great group of disabled people that were there and just learned about the hunting world. Well, Chad had told us, that it would be great if everybody could just start plugging in for different hunts. Well, a gentleman that we met there named Mike, he told my husband Terry and he started just flooding us with places to apply for hunts. Well, we applied for a New Mexico hunt. But right before this, Weston had called and said, we'd like you to come on this hunt. So we went to our first hunt. Do you want to hear about that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Our first hunt, we went to, what was the name of the ranch? Redstone Ranch. And it was south. And we went to his ranch, and his name is KW. And we met Weston there, and it was just, I had no idea that when you go hunting on ranches like that you stay in these accommodations that are so cool. And the things that we were able to do there were just really awesome. So that was my first hunt, and it was an axis hunt. And so there's a video online where, with the help of my husband and the others, they got me up, the deer blinds that are up in the air. They picked me up, put me on their shoulders, put me on the edge, ran up the stairs, grabbed my upper body and my lower body, pulled me up, and put me into the office chair that was inside of the deer blind. So once I got there, I was too low, so they had to pick me up, put feed sacks under me, and then I sat high enough to get up in the deer blind, and the guide got in there with me. And at that point I thought, you know what, with people, you can do a lot if they're just willing to help you do it. And, it's so funny because they looked at me and I said, do you think you can get up in that deer blind? And my husband said, we can get her up in that deer blind. And so boom, everybody just jumped into action. It was a total blast. So we got up there, and we're kind of looking at the beautiful, there were some does coming out, and, and I believe that's what you call an axis. Yes. And so, we're watching for a while, and then comes out this beautiful big axis, and I'm watching him. He comes out from the trees, and I look at the guide and I said, "Can I shoot that one?" And he says, "I don't know. Let's wait a while." So I'm thinking he didn't want me to shoot that one. And so he comes closer, and I said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but God told me that I'm supposed to shoot that one." So he looks at me and he goes, "Okay, I guess you can shoot him." So I was blessed, and I shot him, and down he went. And that was like overwhelmingly just awesome. It was just awesome that I actually did it.
That's
But
awesome.
then we're sitting in the blind, and we have to wait because everybody has left in a ATV to go look around, and they don't know I've shot it. So we have to sit there, and I'm just watching him through the barrel of the gun lay there. And I can't get to him till somebody comes and picks me up. So it was just, that was our first experience. And just, it was so neat to see what you can do with others and their help,
Yeah. So have you hunted from any of the tree stands since then?
Oh, no, that was the first hunt, I believe. This just been this past year that I've been hunting.
Yeah. So I'm thinking you need to get some type of a sling or some sling saddle to hoist you up there, so they're not having to finagle you with so much challenge.
I love it.
For the love of the outdoors, open spaces, and mountains, shop www.mia.limited/one. The Mac Outdoors Mountains Are Calling series of apparel is perfect for you or your loved ones. Support the channel and shop now. www.mia.limited/one.
The whole thing that I'm so excited to be on with you is, that's what when the opportunities come to you to be able to do something like this, it's just such a blessing. And we're trying to apply everywhere we can to find hunts and to go on hunts. Just another one real quick. We were blessed with Serve Outdoors to go on a turkey hunt, which was a totally different deal because, as we tried to get in a blind, but I was too low to the ground because I was in my chair. So we went to a tent blind. And then we had a guy with us that was a turkey caller, which, oh my gosh, the trip is that in itself.
That's a skill in itself, isn't it?
It's like, oh my gosh, just to hear them and then to hear the turkey's reply. That was just amazing. And so again, we were blessed. I got to shoot a turkey with a turkey gun. And that's a whole different type of a gun, a shotgun versus, a 243 rifle. So what fun was that, getting to, just experience a turkey hunt. And okay, I'm just going to throw another one out there while I have you, because I know you can edit all this. Am I right?
I can edit whatever you want me to. Okay. But I'm not seeing anything that needs to be edited so far.
Okay. Then we have these really great friends that we met at a trade show, an outdoor trade show. And they invited us to Louisiana to go on an alligator hunt.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
I wasn't expecting that one.
Okay, good. Because if you go to my personal Facebook page, you can, I don't know if we invite people to that, but it's Lynette Connell Jones. If you get a chance to go on to that, you'll see photos of all the alligators we were blessed to shoot. So what happens there is they picked me up and put me into a alligator boat.
A boat, yeah.
One of those little tin boats that you see on the alligator hunting shows, if you happen to watch those. And you really are on the bank of kind of like the swamp, and you're on the bank. They put you in the boat and they literally push the boat off of the landing there into the water. There's no boat ramp, and I'm in my wheelchair.
Oh my gosh.
These things are just such a blast. And so there's someone holding me in my chair while the boat is being launched into the water. And basically they bait them with live chickens. My husband and our friends went out and baited all the hooks. And then the gentleman that blessed us with this called a lot of people out there that aren't able to go do things like this. They're not able to go alligator hunting.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous. I've never gotten to go alligator hunting. This is pretty cool.
We know the guys. They're willing to travel. Talk about a podcast. We would be live in the swamps of Louisiana.
Yeah. So, and you're talking about this, and I'm thinking of swamp people. And so they baited the hooks, and then you're out there floating around. Were you scared at all, or were you just excited for the adventure?
Exactly. There's such adrenaline and such excitement that, you don't think about any of that because they've done it. And so I just believed in and had faith in the people that we went with. And they had a lot of volunteers with them. They were some young high school kids, but they knew what they were doing. Basically, they can tell when they have one on the line. And so we headed towards it. They do just like the swamp people. They grab that line and they pull that alligator up. And for me, they had to pull him slightly into the boat so that I could shoot him. So that was kind of exciting when they pull him up and, you're not used to being that up close and personal.
Yeah.
And then there's a diamond that you have to aim within their head. There's just a diamond shaped area and you have to be able to hit that area in order to kill him.
Yeah. And so for this, were you still using a long gun or were you using a handgun? What type of firearm?
It was a .22 Magnum long rifle.
Okay.
Husband here in the background because what kind of gun is that? They just kind of said, where it is, and you just have to pull the trigger. And I remember pulling the trigger because when it hits, all of it comes back on you. The blood. And
yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of like, oh,
yeah.
Wow.
I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And so they shot him a second time just to make sure that I got him. But then watching them roll that alligator in the boat, that's the process. Because they grab his upper body and kind of roll the rest of his body in. Yeah. And the one that I shot was 10'6".
Wow. I was just going to ask, how big was this thing?
6. It was it was an adventure for all of us for sure.
Yeah. It sounds super exciting. With an alligator, I have friends who've been on an alligator adventure, but they weren't able to keep the meat or anything like that because the guide had a part of his quota. I don't know how the whole system works, but were you able to keep any, or were you basically helping him with his work?
We were able to keep the first one, and the meat was so fun. We made alligator balls and fried them, and we were able to do a lot of different things with the first alligator. The second time they had to take the meat, but we were able to, the friends of ours took the hides, had them tanned for us, and had them sent to us. My husband was actually able to shoot an 11.7, I believe. So they tanned the hides for us and sent them to us in the mail. And of course, mine was hot pink, and my husband's was a beautiful, beautiful brown color. So we have the hides, and it's so cool to look at them knowing that, hey, we shot these.
It's a wonderful memory of a great adventure, isn't it?
Yeah,
very cool.
Much so.
Before you started this hunting experience, did you have experience with firearms? Had you been shooting at all, or did it all come together?
Yes, this is actually a funny story. My husband laughs at me because as a child, my brother and I would go to camps around Texas. And Camp Champions was one. Camp Arrowhead was another one that I went to, which is now Camp Honey Creek. And they teach riflery and archery. So I had done a lot of riflery and archery, but I was very young, like 10, 12, 14 years old, the different times that I went to these camps. And I really believe that helped a lot. And then my dad and brother being hunters, I can remember occasionally shooting, but not a lot. So when I started in my 20s, that's when, I was able to go on that hunt with my brother and shoot some exotics. From then on, I hadn't, for 23 years, I hadn't really picked one up. So this was just, these little hunts all came very close together.
I know there's another hunt that we really want to hear about. And I know, did you have to get special equipment for this elk hunt? Because I know it was different. You weren't in a tree stand. You weren't in a blind.
We, again, through Able Outdoors, Chad was able to get a Savage 300 mag. I believe it was donated to him by Savage. He's from Texas as well. He lives in El Campo. The drawing of this tag was just amazing for us because we'd put in everywhere, or my husband had put in everywhere. And Chad had written to us, hey, the drawing has started for the hunts. Please check your email. So my husband got online and checked his email, and he said, we drew a tag in New Mexico. I said, what? He said, you drew a tag for a bull elk in New Mexico. So immediately I called Chad and I said, Chad, we drew the tag. And he said, oh, no, you didn't. I've been trying for 30 years. You didn't draw the tag. I swear we drew the tag. He goes, what color was it? Was it red or green? And so we took a picture of it and we sent it to him, and he goes, oh my gosh, you drew a tag. And I said, yes. We are so excited. So it wasn't an hour later, he called us back and he said, I've got a guide. I've got a filming crew, and we're going to go to New Mexico with you. I said, okay, let's do it.
The more help, the better.
The more help, the better. So again, like I said, he had that Savage that was donated. Then also another incredible thing was this Coyote Outrider that was also, it was donated for us to use for this trip as well. But Chad had invited us to his house, and we were able to try this new gun. And we, he set up, he's also in a wheelchair. So
okay.
He set up this table. I should say he rigged this table, and we were able to put the gun onto the table to shoot from the gun. And his dad, Randy, had helped us with a target to shoot at. And did we have the muzzle loader at that time? No, we just shot it, right? And we wanted to see what type of a kick that it would have. It being a 300 mag, it had some kick. So that was the beginning with Chad, just getting set up with the gun and set up with different things before we actually went on the hunt. And so that was the only time I had shot that gun, was at his house.
Yeah. Will you tell us about the Outrider?
Yes.
I think I know what it is, but tell us what that is.
Okay. Well, again, before the hunt, we went online and we looked up the Coyote Outrider. And, it's a video of Chad. And the company, he went up to North Carolina and filmed this. It's not actually made for disabilities, but because of Chad, they are trying to make them more accessible for people with disabilities. And so he went down there and filmed the commercial. And so I'm watching this, and he's going over streams and he's fly fishing. And, I'm thinking, oh, this is an actual vehicle that we get in, that we drive, and it's low to the ground. It's amazing. So you don't understand it all until you are in face to face with it. And so the first time that we were able to be face to face was on this hunt, because he had to go pick them. No, yes, he had to go pick them up in North Carolina, where he also picked up the Crooked Canyon Productions Nick. And they drove to New Mexico from there, and we met them in New Mexico, my husband and I. So that's the first time we actually saw it. The first time I got in it, we went to the shooting range to shoot the gun again. That's the first time I got in the Outrider and actually got to try to drive it around. Well, as a quadriplegic, you have no upper body strength. So you'll just kind of, if you're in rough terrain, you'll kind of slide around. So it wasn't until the actual hunt that we learned what all we needed to, I want to say, to use the vehicle properly, to hold me in the vehicle and to get in the rough terrain.
Yeah. So did you have to get some cam straps and strap you in there to secure you?
That was the fun part. When you're with an incredible group of men that think outside of the box. They had, what type of straps were they?
Ratchet straps.
They were ratchet straps. We put the cushion of my wheelchair into the metal plate of the seat of the Outrider, and then they would have to pick me up, transfer me to that seat, and they had taken the seat of a cushion, just a cushion off your top of your patio chair, and strapped that in as the back cushion. And then we realized early on I wasn't stable in it. And then they ratchet strapped me in. And of course, you have on rain gear, you have on hunting gear, you have on all of that, and they're strapping you on top of that. And then for me to be able to use it, I can't, with my hand, I don't have the strength to like pull a gas pedal. So there's a thing that is at your thumb that you push, thumb throttle, to actually do the gas.
Wow. So you were actually propelling yourself around there. Somebody wasn't having to push you.
Yes. This is when you're out there, you being in a wheelchair, you can propel yourself. But most of the time for me, if I'm in my manual chair, I'm pushed. Like if I have to go uphill or things like that, I'm pushed. So I'm usually pushed everywhere I go, or picked up to be pushed everywhere I go. So in this vehicle, I was my own command. I was able to go on my own and walk with them. They weren't pushing me. I was walking beside them. I was walking in front of them. I was going wherever I wanted to go. And so it was so cool.
It sounds like you had such a sense of freedom with that vehicle. And you were able to go in very rough terrain and up mountains and all of that.
Yes. That's what I thought was so cool about it was, they'd say, okay, cross over this creek. And I'd stop and I'd look at it and I'd say, by myself? And they said, yes, by yourself. Just hit the gas. And boy, once you hit that gas, I flew over that creek and over. Oh, gosh. It just was like, I better steer. And the thing was, you had these two handles and you had to steer like this. So they had to strap this hand onto this steering, or onto this wheel. This steered the left wheel and this steered the right wheel. And so I had to be able to steer like this. Well, sometimes I'd get to places that I couldn't steer. So they'd have to lift up the back end, turn it around, put me in the direction I was supposed to go. And then off I went.
It sounds like you have such a wonderful attitude about all of it. I mean, really, I think that's probably more than half of the whole thing, is having a great attitude and just a willingness to give it a try. And so once you were on an elk and you have your rifle up, how did you have to have a special brace or some type of bipod or monopod to hold the rifle? Or how did that work with the chair?
when we were in the outrider, it's called a death grip. And it's the tool that actually the gentleman Scott through Serve Outdoors gave to us when we were turkey hunting, because I couldn't hold the gun steady. I couldn't hold the gun still. And so you put your rifle or shotgun or whatever it is in it, and they tighten it. And so it's a tripod. And so I was able to get the tripod where I needed it and hold the gun where I needed to hold it. But in the outrider, it was more difficult to get it where I needed it for me. So I was, kind of unsteady. But once they were able to get me steady with it was a real game changer. And that's now, if I go hunting anywhere, everywhere, I will take that along with me.
That's now a tool that you will not leave home without. Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the story of the elk hunt and how you made that final shot on the elk?
Well, the people that were with me love to talk about the misses. I had just a few misses. And I think, when you are blessed with an elk hunt and you draw a tag for an elk hunt, again, I talk about my faith and I talk about how God puts things together. I really believe this was a God thing, because to draw it is one thing, but to get the team through our guide, Corliss, Jerry Corliss, was just, it was all just meant to be. He'd never been hunting with a person with a disability. And so this was something new for him as well. And so the first shot I had, it was raining, and again, we had the rain gear on, and he was up on the elk was up on the side of a mountain, and they had to get me up on the other side. And I was looking down at him. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. I was looking down at him, and when they bugle and you see the majesty of that elk, it's so overwhelming. The animal, and think about this, it's raining and it's a little cloudy, and it's just seeing that in real life is so beautiful that I was nervous. And so I'm shaking, and you've got people talking in your ear and saying, do you have the shot? Do you have the shot? Do you have the shot? I obviously didn't have the shot because I missed him.
It sounds like maybe they were a little more excited than you also.
Yeah. Laugh about it now, but at the time it was, you think, but at least I didn't hit him or wound him or anything like that. Needless to say, it's very overwhelming, and it's just so beautiful. It's so majestic. There's just no words. So then we, just continued on with our day. You saw a beautiful elk, just running, and to see the cow elk running and the big bull elk, when you hear the cow elk and then you hear him bugling, and you watch them trying to get them in their little herd, it's beautiful to watch. So leading up to the final shot, we came upon another herd, and they were way up in the mountains, and they got my wheelchair out. They got me out. They pushed me as far as they could. They could see we did a lot of glassing and just looking to find the right shot and all of that type of stuff. And frankly, just to tell you, I missed two other times, just did not feel right about the shot and just couldn't get my balance. It just wasn't right. So this time when they got me out and they got me set up, and I was really secure with the wheelchair, with my tripod, and with that gun, and holding the gun right where it needed to be. And he was up on the top of the mountain, and he had just laid down. And so I'm trying to keep him, when you're trying to focus through the scope, and you're nervous, and he's laying down, you get tired, and you're holding your breath, and you're trying to hold yourself up. There's a lot of obstacles that go along with it. Not that any of that matters, But
yeah, but that's something that regardless of a disability or not, that's something that any hunter, especially if you're a newer hunter, that's something you might experience, is all of this anxiety that you're talking about right now. You'll experience that. So that's something that I don't think you should discount. Like, you were overcoming obstacles there, that it's going to happen.
okay, good, because I felt like it was just me. And then this is something that's so important to say. You know, you want to do this not just for yourself, but you've got an incredible guide with you. You've got people surrounding you that are just supporting you and really wanting this for you. And you want to do this. You really want to do this. So there's a lot of other factors where you want it to be something for other people as well. So, when I had him in my sights and they said to me, Lynette, he's getting up. So they bugled toward him for him. Right when he was getting up, he comes down toward the mountain toward us. So his chest is facing me. And the guide says, shoot him in the chest. And I said, I've got him. And I just felt so secure in that. And I shot him in the chest, and I could see him through the scope. And he did this. And they said, you got him. And I knew that I had gotten him. And then he just turned broadside, and they said, let's make sure, just shoot him again. So they reloaded for me. And I just shot him again right behind that shoulder blade. And I just watched him go down. And they said, he's down. And, it's, you just can't believe that you shot him. You're in shock. That's what I want to say. You're in shock. So you don't know how to react. And so, they said, okay, well, now we're going to get you to him. And I thought, how in the world are you going to get me to him? Because most of the time in a chair, you can't get to them. They're going to go and do what they need to do and then bring the remains or whatever to you, is what my thought was. And they said, oh no, we're going to go up there and get him to a place where you can get to him. So in that, they put me in the outrider, and the guide, Jerry and Brett, and actually the
Nick,
gentleman that was filming all of this, Nick, they all went up and got him down. Oh, and of course my husband, and got him down to where, and then they all came back to me and said, let's go. We're all, and so I got in the outrider, and I mean, over creeks, over trees, it's a very rocky terrain to go up this mountain. And man, in this outrider, I had blisters on my thumb from pushing that throttle. And we finally get up to it, and it's incredible. It's incredible. The horns and the body, he's huge, and he's beautiful. And you can smell him. It's if you're able to watch the video, please watch the video, because just to see him, and we should have smell-o-vision so that you're able to smell him, as it's just beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's just an incredible experience. And I'm sure for able-bodied, for anybody who gets an opportunity to go elk hunting, my gosh, I went elk hunting. That was just something I truly, really, that's one thing you think you'll never do.
Yeah, in a wheelchair, elk hunting. That's incredible, and it's so inspiring. And you are truly a courageous human. I mean, you're amazing, and your willingness to strike out on these adventures that I'm sure are so fulfilling to you in the end is something that I wish we could just give someone a pill to teach that to people, to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and go try things. So is there any advice you would give people to reach these I don't know, what do you call it, plateaus and milestones in their lives?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it is. It takes faith, it takes courage, and it takes a lot of trust. But it's got to be a trust within yourself that no matter what, I'm going to try this, because if you don't try, you'll never know. It started way before. It's learning to drive. It's some quadriplegics can't drive and they shoot a gun through what's called a sip and puff. And it's that their arms don't work at all. And they puff through this tubing and their gun goes off. These are things I never knew until I became disabled myself. People can get out there that aren't able to even pull a trigger, and they can shoot a gun. You can go fishing. You can go do things. The outdoors bring so much to you. It's just being out in them. It's smelling the fresh air. It's being with other people, being with other hunters, being with other people that fish. It's just saying, I can do all things through Christ. Strengthens me. And it's just a matter of being willing to get out.
Absolutely. As I said, I'm truly blessed that you guys reached out, or that your husband reached out, and that you are on my show, because I do believe that you are truly inspiring. And I wish I could meet you in person. Do you have any events planned where you're going to be speaking in the coming year or anything like that?
I'm so sorry. I don't know. Where are you?
I'm in Colorado.
Oh,
yeah.
Which part?
And so I live in the southwest corner of Colorado near Durango, and I do travel around the country to teach a lot. And I will be in Texas, I believe in the Fort Worth area, the end of April, for an event. It's called She Never Quit. I teach archery at that event, and I'll have to look at my schedule to see what other events I'm teaching at this year, but I travel a little bit, so maybe somewhere I can run into you.
Well, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
There is archery for disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Actually done it where you pull back with your teeth.
Right.
And so it's a 2-hour drive for us to Dallas.
Okay.
So I would love to come to this event and just meet you. And if it's something that, you would like to incorporate.
That would be awesome. And what I'll do is I'll talk to they have a board of directors that present that, and I'll talk to them and see, because I think the ladies would love to meet you, and I think you would just be inspiring to them. So I will reach out to them and I'll let you know, so that maybe we can figure something out.
If anything, we will just come there just to meet you. And I'd love to meet you, and I'd love to see, I'd love to see what you do. That would just be so cool. So even if that doesn't work, please just give us the dates and when you'll be there, and we will be there.
Absolutely. I most certainly will. And as I said, again, thank you so much for being on the show. You're an inspiration, and I hope the listeners will understand that you can do all things through Christ, and that also if Lynette can do it and overcome all these obstacles and live such a happy, positive life, so can you.
Hey, this is Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, host of the Armed Lutheran Radio podcast, reminding you that the podcast you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great content at selfdefenseradio.net.